So there's something about being realistic about what you're asking of yourself in that time when you need to be present elsewhere. I think that we spread ourselves too thin,
Right.
and expect too much. And then we beat ourselves up that we haven't done it when it was too much to expect of ourselves anyway. I see that as a pattern.
2, 1, 0.
Hello and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. This is your host, Orion. My guest, Kristin Swanson, helps people execute their someday projects with ease. As a completion expert, coach, and cancer survivor, Kristin has learned the importance of getting out of one's own way and stop waiting until someday to make a unique impact. Realizing deeply that you only live once, she has gained perspective, tools, and strategies to overcome the illusions fear instilled in us. I am a procrastinator. I have to tell you, sometimes I just wait and wait to do things, and I am working on it. So, this was the episode for me. I don't know if you procrastinate. I think we all procrastinate things, and sometimes it's the little things that stand in our way. And the more I feel like the more I do and the less I procrastinate, the less I procrastinate. It's like the law of inertia. The more I do, the more I do, and the more I procrastinate, the more I procrastinate. And when you achieve even the little things, and you make a list in the morning, for example, and you achieve it that day, you feel this sense of satisfaction. It gives you lots of energy to keep going. And when you achieve little things, I feel like it can eliminate some of your fears because you're already proving yourself that you can achieve things. This was a wonderful conversation that will help you move faster in the direction of your dream because, people say someday maybe I will, and someday maybe I will do this, and someday maybe I will do that. And then, boom, you're at the end of your life, and you look back and you haven't achieved or experienced everything that you wanted to. So life is a big gift, and we want to live it to the fullest and live it out loud, and try to make the most we can out of this precious time that we have here on earth. And this episode will help you do it. So now, without further ado, on to the show. Hello, Kristin. Welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. So good to have you here. We were trying to record a couple of times, and like something with the tech didn't work, but now here we are together.
Here we are.
Aligned.
So glad to be here. Yes.
So glad you're here. How did you discover your passion and became the person that you are today?
Yes. Okay. So it all started with my corporate background in project management, where I got very, very clear on my strength of listening to somebody's vision, and a plan just starts to form before my eyes in terms of what steps they would take. So that was kind of the first piece of the puzzle. And then I got clear that I wanted to do coaching. So I went and got my coach training and started to do business coaching and was loving that. And at the time, my husband and I were both self-employed, and it was the 2009 recession. And I had a young child, and we just decided that it was a difficult time to both be in that self-employment stage. So I turned one of my biggest clients into a corporate job, part-time job. And then I didn't end up leaving that job for 8 years. And this was not my intention. My intention was to just have, a quick little bridge job and then go back to my business, right? Well, my business then became what I call a someday when project, something that you're putting off and putting off. You're going to do it someday, but it's just not time yet. And what happened with me, and what I see happen with a lot of people, is that my excuses of yesterday, which were, I've got young kids, I need the flexibility, I need that stability, stable income, then turned into like my excuses of tomorrow, which, as life would have it, I'm a breast cancer survivor. And then I felt like I couldn't leave my corporate job because I needed the health insurance. So what I then became very, very clear about is there's always going to be something, there's always going to be some reason why we're waiting, and we don't need to wait. So I kind of like merged the two of these things, this life lesson that I just told you about, and then that corporate background where I was breaking things down into a plan. So the truth of the matter is that these soul-led goals that I talk about aren't going to happen overnight anyway. And so why not just take little steps while your life is already busy and full, and stop waiting. So I'm super passionate about helping people not wait for life's ultimatums, to take those actions and move towards those soul-led goals. So that's sort of how I've come to this line of work and why I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah. I'm a very creative person, and as a creative person, I have very creative excuses to why I cannot do the things I want to do. And they're like, I'm still brilliant at those excuses.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's good that I'm talking to you today. You mentioned soul-led goals. What is the difference between having goals? Because some people have the goal of being famous on Instagram. Is that a soul-led goal? What is the difference between just goals and the ones that are coming from, I guess, a deeper place?
Yeah. I mean, for somebody, maybe the famous on Instagram is, I don't know, I would maybe question that one and question where it's coming from. So it's really all about like when you get quiet with yourself and you really hear those, I call them soul whispers. And a lot of times they are a whisper, that thing that's pulling at you that you want to be doing. So you know deep down what it is. And some people will tell me that they don't. And I believe that sometimes you don't. But if you create enough space in your life to get quiet, then those answers will start to come and those whispers will start to come. So I think the way that you know is that coming from deep within, or even a higher power or something that's calling to you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the ones that might be a little bit more where you feel like you should, right? Like you should, or it is something that's passed down from family or society. I think that would be like the other side of the coin, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time when people say, I don't know what it is, it's just another way to not look at it.
Right. Yeah.
Not look at
And
it.
a lot
I
of
don't
times
know what it is,
they're
because if I knew that I knew, I'll have to look at it, and if I have to look at it, I have to take actions, and if I have to take action, it's going to be really scary.
exactly. Yeah. And so if that sounds like, if that speaks to somebody, I would ask, are you almost afraid to say anything out loud? Because that's kind of the thing, right? The thing that you don't even want to say it out loud, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times that's what it is. And there's just so much power in even saying it out loud.
Right. And I sometimes I have, I was born in a way where modesty is a virtue. Don't talk about yourself. Don't talk about your achievements. Don't try to be too big too much. And I come from a actually an Orthodox Jewish background. I never mentioned that on the show. And that means that a woman should be small and hide and be there for like a good mother, a good partner, it's kind of the old way of the way society was. And I rebelled this whole thing when I was 15, because it was not aligned with the way I felt like I wanted to be. And I still have a connection to Judaism, and I see the beauty of it, and I love the spiritual part of it. Like I love Kabbalah. It's like, I think, like when you go back and study that, it's like ancient self-development. Everything you learn in a Tony Robbins seminar, for example, you can find there.
Wow.
So I love that part. I don't like the dogma, and I don't like the rules. And I do think that somewhere in my subconscious mind, there is this young girl that is still kind of shy and still have to be modest and still have to give the credit to everybody else but herself. And it's almost like I'm trying to stretch out of my comfort zone to, like right now I'm starting to promote my services on this podcast. I've never done. It's been like, we almost have 300 episodes. And I have never promoted myself on the podcast
Oh,
because,
wow.
you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
like, how do you deal with that? Because this is deeper than having a to-do list on the calendar.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times it's questioning those beliefs.
Right.
Like, why do I not want to talk about it? Why? What's stopping me? What's the worst that can happen? And really questioning those thoughts. Like, is it true that X, Y, and Z, whatever you think might happen if you do this, or that you'll sound like you're bragging, or you sound like you're too promotional, or whatever the limiting beliefs are that we tell ourselves, that a lot of times they feel very true and real. And so, but questioning them and experimenting with doing it anyway, and feeling the feelings that come up while you do it, because there's so much power in just doing that and moving through the discomfort. And then, because I sort of think of it like exercise. Like, I don't exercise because I want to go to the gym, but I like the feeling on the other side of the exercise, right? And so the feeling on the other side of putting yourself out there, asking for what you want, all of those things, there is something about that will make you want to do it more and more. Does that make sense?
Yes. And how did you ask those questions? What was the shift for you? How did that happen?
Yeah, I think getting support, really. I mean, getting support, hiring a coach was my thing, and a lot of personal development work and moving through all the blocks, and just surrounding myself with like-minded people that I could call and text or message when I get into those moments and those like shame stories and limiting beliefs, and be able to talk through it, because it's messy. And being able to have that support, and really like knowing that you're not alone. I think there's just so much that to be said for that, right? When you speak out loud these limiting beliefs that you're having, and then somebody else says, oh, I feel that way too, or this is how it shows up for me. And then you know that you're not alone and you're human, and this is just your human brain trying to keep you safe. Then it puts it all in perspective. So I think getting support would probably be my answer.
Right. And when you say support, do you have any modalities that you like for healing or for self-support besides having a coach?
Yeah, besides having a coach was things like meditating, in order to be able to like have the tools to move through. Meaning, like, I think when you're sort of a regular meditator, you're able to move through, and you're able to then observe your thoughts a little bit more than feeling like you are your thoughts. So that would be one. I'm a huge fan of EFT tapping, emotional freedom technique. Are you familiar with that?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've done
So
it. Yes.
yeah, so that is instrumental in like moving through blocks, and I help clients with that sometimes, but really that is just something that you can Google and look at YouTube and learn how to do. It's so easy, and it really helps with anxiety too, but also in moving through these uncomfortable emotions. So let's see what else. Modalities. I'm also an EMDR fan. So I've done a lot of therapy, had a lot of therapists in my life. And I like that
I've
form
done
of therapy.
I've done EMDR once. I think it was just not the right guy because I did a few sessions and I'm like, I'm not getting anywhere. This is weird.
Yeah. And I think you have to find the right person. Absolutely. In all of this, right? You have to find some, and keep looking until you find your thing. I mean, that's the thing. I think there's so many different ways, and finding what speaks to you and not dismissing it. And like, even if that modality doesn't work, try another one. Yeah.
Do you think we ever heal? Or we just get better at handling life and becoming resourceful?
Oh, this is such a good question. Do we ever heal? I think we do. And then I think we have to heal again, right? Or up level again. And there's like different levels of healing, and it's almost like shedding. And I think that once you kind of go to the next level, and then I believe there's like upper limits that you have to like bump up against, and then there's another level of healing that has to happen. So I do think it's a continuous journey, but I think you get better and better at it, and the more you practice these things, the easier it is. I think your comeback rate gets better, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I wonder if it's like peeling layers of an onion to to get to the core versus upgrading each time?
Well, yeah, I think an onion would be better. Yeah, because it is
You
the
peel the
core.
onion and you peel the onion and you peel the onion, that you find that um, the biggest answer that you were looking for is inside of you.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and
everything
there's
else is
something.
just an illusion and a distraction.
Yes, totally. And there's something about the connection too, like at your core and your connection to your higher power, whatever that is, that I think it always kind of comes back to that, even with the healing and the different layers and the up leveling.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's something about connection too.
I think something that has happened to me since I became a mother is, especially this year, is going through some turbulences and some difficulties and some challenges, and also finding and seeking and getting deeper healing.
Mm-hmm.
I, and one of my things is to become more genuine, more me, more like more and more like, for me it is the taking away the layers, the illusion, the because suffering, anxiety, fear, most of your fears will never ever come true, but yet we live in those fear states for so long.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's true. And I think the turbulent times all serve a purpose, but you don't see it until you're looking in the rearview mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you look back, you can see, oh, this is why that turbulent moment, and this is why that one. And it all builds on each other. I see it as almost like this golden thread throughout people's lives. But it doesn't make sense at the time, and it doesn't seem like it's in service of you at the time, obviously, right?
Right.
But it is, yeah.
Yeah,
Back to the healing.
you said businesses take a long time. Does it have to take a long time? Are we ever ready to be our fullest potential? Because I feel like my journey, like where I am today and where I thought I would be, is very, there's a big gap.
Yeah.
But so much life happened in between, and so many miracles and beautiful points happened in between in my personal life. But when it comes to my career, there is a big gap between where I wanted to be or where I
Mm-hmm.
thought I'm going to be, where
Yes.
I am today.
Yeah.
And I'm
I know.
good. I'm good with it, and I also have the desire to expand.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it all is sort of intermeshed, right? So it's like you as a whole person. And I don't think it has to take a long time, but I also think it's not on our timeline. I
Yes.
think there is a greater plan at work here that we can't even wrap our human brains around. And so while we might have one ultimate thing that we think we're going after, it's really probably bigger than that anyway. And probably some of the personal healing or the turbulence or whatever had to happen in order to get to what we want. And so I see it as sort of a co-creation,
Mm-hmm.
and that we're not, our timelines are just, I think that it's like minuscule when you compare it to the grand plan, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
One of my coaches told me that it's like trying to push a tree to bloom in winter. The fruits
Right.
won't be as juicy or as great. Sometimes you have to take the time to nourish what is missing.
Yes.
And oh God, I'm in Aries. My birthday's coming up, and I'm very not. I'm not that patient. Like, yeah, I want to have it now, and just the way I
Yeah.
want it. And
Right.
then God, the universe is like, ha ha ha, just wait, it's not happening yet. It's not the way you thought it's
Right.
gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And then does it end up turning out better than you would have imagined if you look back?
I think so.
Yeah, I know. And that's the amazing part. And that's the part that's hard to remember in the moment when you're in another turbulent time and you're waiting for something that you want to happen faster. But there is something about trusting. Yeah.
I 3 years ago, I was in a seminar, and they gave us a little pebble thing, and they were like, write the word for the next year. And my word was trust. And it's still trust. And it is still trust. And it is still trust.
Right, right.
So many levels of trust in trusting yourself, trusting God, trusting myself as a mother.
Yeah.
Did you have
And women especially, I think, sometimes struggle with trusting themselves. And so all of the work that I do, a lot of times that's what it comes back to, where I'm teaching people to trust themselves.
How did you learn to trust yourself?
Well, I think that it sort of comes back to my cancer journey a little bit. And when I was faced with the decisions that I had to make as a breast cancer patient at the time, it was like, I really thought that they would give me a treatment plan. Like, here is what you do. That they would recommend what comes next. And they didn't. At least that wasn't my experience. They said, you could have this surgery, or this surgery. And it was like a mastectomy, lumpectomy, or double mastectomy, right? And they gave me all the statistics and all the information. And it's like, go make your decision. And that was really hard for me. Like, I want you to recommend what I do. I have no idea. And I'm terrified and I have no clue, tell me. And I'm actually glad in hindsight they didn't tell me, because that's not how they do it. And I think it's probably a good thing, because it turned out what I did was I really had to just get quiet. And I really didn't trust that the answers were going to come at the time. But one morning they just did in my journal. I was journaling, and I just started to journal about, like, what do I want my legacy with this cancer to be? And I got really, really clear. I want my kids to remember that I had cancer, and that's all I want them to remember.
Oh my goodness.
And that just came to me. And that means so much to me, like, because my mom passed away at an early age, not of cancer, but she thought she was going to have cancer. And so the fears that I remember her having, because her mother had breast cancer, I didn't want my kids to see me always like, oh, there's another lump. Oh, I got to go, I have another biopsy and I'm waiting for the results. And what about the pathology? And, I didn't want that. That's what became super clear to me. So then I knew. It was like, I know I'm doing a double mastectomy. Like, I just knew, and I got clear. And I told my husband afterwards, he was like, wow, okay, that's a really big decision. Maybe you want to sleep on it. Like, a lot of people had questions about that decision, but I just knew. And a lot of times in my life at that time, I didn't know, and I would question and I would ask other people. But since I had that certainty, and then when the pathology came back, basically the surgeon told me, wow, you know your body really well, because if you would have done a lumpectomy, we definitely would have been going back for a mastectomy. And since there was also a trace on the other side, so we probably would have recommended a double mastectomy. So that's when I learned, oh, we do have the answers. Like, it comes, and to trust.
Right.
And if a surgeon would have told me one way, it might not have been the answer. So I think that we know, or a higher power is guiding us. And that's kind of how I learned. And it really did have to sink in like that for me in order to trust myself, I think. And then it's just like little things along the way, little clues where, oh, it does work out, when you follow your guidance.
Right. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm glad you trusted your intuition.
Yes, me too. Yeah. And it's such a powerful thing. And we all have it. And I think sometimes we just don't get quiet enough to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, this year is all about connection. I mean, it's kind of cool. I even do this thing where I know people sway forward and backward, but I never knew how to do it the right way. So I just created my own technique where I sway to the right or the left. I just ask my body, is this good? Is this bad? And I don't control it. This is my body just shifts to one side or the other, and I get the answer.
Oh, I love that.
It's really cool. Our bodies are very wise.
Yeah. Powerful.
Yeah. Being late is one thing that I struggle with. What is the core of that, and how do we improve it? How do I improve it? I'm getting better at it. I'm not that bad, but it's always like I can be better.
Oh, but being late, like to appointments or on deliverables?
Like, it'll be like a 2-minute late, a 3-minute late. Like it's rare that I'll be there 5 minutes ahead of time.
Okay. Well, I would want to ask you, what's that about?
Don't know. Oh, I guess I don't want to look at it. I actually nothing comes up.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And what would happen if you were early?
Maybe I'll get bored and I don't want to get bored.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think sometimes that's the key, is like sitting in the discomfort, whatever it is, boredom, and challenging yourself. Usually that's what the growth is sitting in the uncomfortable.
Right.
Whether it's, yeah, and like putting structure in place. So I think there's something about like moving through uncomfortable emotions that's always important when you're trying
Let's talk
something
about
new.
structure because this is one
Yeah,
of
but then having structure too. So like, yes, I'm gonna like, I don't know, have a plan for like, if I get there and I'm 5 minutes early and I am bored, like bring a book, or set an alarm that's going to tell me when I need to leave, or tell somebody, hold me accountable. I have got to leave for this appointment, a half hour early. Remind me, set a timer, whatever you need to do. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you organize your day? How do you become very productive throughout the day? Do you plan the night before? Do you plan a week before, a month before, a year before?
Yeah, so I think that I think this has to be like unique to each person, but I'll tell you what I do, but I think everybody has their own version of this. So my biggest thing for everyone is to like plan your day before you step into it.
Mm.
So I don't actually care if it's like a month in advance, a week in advance, or a day in advance. I think you need to find out what works for you. What works for me is a week in advance. So I do it on Sundays and I plan it out on my calendar, and I have like a paper calendar and I have like the electronic calendar, which I know is like overkill, but I like to do both. But I like the paper calendar almost as like a journaling exercise to just like see, does it all fit in, right? Will it all fit in? And I think the key is white space,
Okay.
not to like pack in your calendar. And too many people do this. It's like they've got this huge long to-do list and then they've got back-to-back meetings the whole day.
Yeah,
So
that's my
that's just setting yourself up to
No,
fail,
that's
right?
my husband is, and he's still like I guess he's a little bit of a workaholic. He still does that. Sometimes he forgets to eat lunch.
Yeah. Oh, and that's
Yeah.
super common. Right. Yeah. And I had to train myself out of that, the forgetting to eat lunch thing. So I literally write, eat lunch, eat breakfast on those time slots
Oh
in
my
my
God,
calendar.
I had our assistant do that for him. I did that for him, and then I had my assistant do it for him. And
Yeah.
it worked amazingly for a month. And then I was like, well, I need this space, and somehow we just, I can't
Yeah.
I can't force them to put a white space on his calendar. It need to come from within, right?
Yeah. 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 And you need to want to do it. So with the eating, I mean, for me, it had to be like I was prioritizing nutrition. So in addition to writing it on the calendar, I would also plan it out the night before. Like I'm going to have a smoothie for breakfast and like know what it is. So know what the item is, and have I get like lunches delivered that are, already pre-made. I had to do that's what I mean by like a structure to force yourself, right?
So
Because I have no excuse not to just grab that thing out of the fridge and eat it. It used to be that I would say, I don't know what to have. I don't have time.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as
Yeah.
a mom of two, who's also an entrepreneur, how do you do everything? How do you schedule your time, the kids' time, the
Yeah.
meal prep time, the
Right. So
work
I
time?
do.
How do you do everything?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is I don't do everything and I have a lot of help. So I think moms and especially working moms struggle with that. We feel like we need to do everything because maybe our moms did everything, but they weren't really doing as much as we are, right? So there's something,
Right, yeah.
yeah. So
There
we're
was
almost
no emails back
expecting.
then.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that was different. So I think so on Sundays I sort of do all of that planning, but I really do have a lot of help with it. Like I was saying, with like the cooking, and then also like a house cleaner and that kind of stuff, right?
Who
Getting
helps
help
you? So
even with
do
the
you have a
kids.
cook?
No, I just order, I use Thistle, which is like a lunch and breakfast. I just lunch and breakfast delivery, and I only do like two meals for 1 week. So most of it is like a smoothie, like pre-made breakfast things that I already come up with, but I think about it in advance. So back to the calendaring, it's like on Sundays, I will look at the whole week, plan out the meals, and then my husband cooks a couple nights a week too, so it's a lot of dividing it all out, and having kids help too. And I think not expecting that you can do it all is the other thing. So like asking, what can I let go of, what doesn't need to get done, and that can be at work too, right? And getting help from people like virtual assistants and things like that. That's another thing that I help a lot of entrepreneurs with, because they will try to wear all the hats.
Mm-hmm.
But the key also to the calendaring is to plan in really like more than just your time, planning your energy. So it's like thinking about energy management, and when you're going to put things in your day that's going to bring you more energy in order to do the stuff like the cooking and the cleaning or whatever, right? So what does that look like for different people? Some people it's exercise, meditation, but actually like scheduling that stuff onto the calendar so that you prioritize it,
Mm-hmm.
and not letting things like email take up your whole day, and meetings, right? And challenging yourself when it comes to, do I have to go to this meeting? Can I shorten this meeting? That kind of thing. So I think that the key is the energy management and the white space,
Mm-hmm.
and getting support.
Yeah. So I was getting support up until 3 hours ago. My babysitter just left to go to Israel for a whole month, and I'm like, this is gonna be really difficult. Because I homeschool my toddler, and it's nice to have the breaks. And I also think that he gets more enrichment being with somebody else other than me all day long.
Right.
So yeah, I'll need to find creative solutions, but maybe I might just make it like a fun month where we do a lot of fun activities together. And
Yes. And expecting less like deliverables, right? That during that time. So there's something about being realistic about what you're asking of yourself in that time when you need to be present elsewhere. I think that we spread ourselves too thin,
right.
and expect too much. And then we beat ourselves up that we haven't done it when it was too much to expect of ourselves anyway. I see that as a pattern.
Yeah. When we started talking, you said that one of your superpowers is to talk to somebody and then immediately get a vision of their business. How do you do that? Like, what comes to you? Can you give me an example?
Yes. So, well, it's normally in the form of, well, this is my business, but what I really want to do is X, like launch a podcast or create an online course or switch lines of business. I want to move from one-on-one coaching to group coaching or something like that. And it will be a little, like just a little mention like that. and what happens with me is it's like an intuitive hit. Well, that's where to focus, right? So I just kind of get the chills and know this is where this person wants to be. And then I'll just say, tell me more about that. And then you just see them light up, right? When they talk about that thing that they want to be doing. Like if money and resources were no object, I would be doing this.
Right.
And then they light up. And so how I do it, then what I was saying is a plan kind of starts to form, like these are the steps you would take. And they have those steps, and they actually know the steps. They know what they would do, but they feel like they can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They have to give themselves permission.
Yes. Yeah. And know that it's not going to happen overnight, and know that the path might change a little bit. Like we talked about, like we might have this wonderful timeline that we're attached to, and it might look a little bit different, but really what you're after. I mean, I also like to talk about the the feeling that you want to feel once you've accomplished that is really what you're after. So if you know the feeling that you want to feel once you launch that podcast, for instance, then, and you start to take the steps towards that, you're going to manifest that feeling at least, and it just might end up taking a different shape or form or timeline, and being okay with that, because really what you're after is the feeling that you want to feel.
Yeah, I'm spot on. Even when you do a vision board or when you say affirmations, it's about your emotional state.
Yes.
It's,
Yeah.
if you're gonna say I'm successful, I'm successful, I'm successful, and there's no like this like emotion that rewires your brain to move forward,
Yeah.
it's not happen. Even on a quantum level, Dispenza talks about it a lot. Dr. Joe Dispenza, about how when you create the vision in your mind, you go into a meditative state and you see where you want to be, you have to feel the feelings, and then what the science behind his work, what the scientists saw that kind of like sealed the deal, is to be in gratitude for that vision, knowing that it's already happening, and like thank you for that. And then you
Yes.
attract that. There is so much we
Yes.
can do on this physical level, and there is also so much more that we are doing on the spiritual level. I think being an
Mhm.
entrepreneur is a very spiritual journey. And the
Yeah.
more you're connected to the quantum field, or even in quantum physics, when you look at thing, the thing appear. So when you look at your vision, the vision will manifest. And if you don't look at it, it's not going to happen. And
Right.
one of the ways of looking at it and connected to it is through your emotional state.
Yes. Yeah. And the energy behind it. Like you said, I can't just say like I'm successful, I'm successful. If I don't believe that, that's actually going to counter effect. It's not even, it's going to do the opposite. But if you, so I love how Dispenza talks about the like who you need to become, basically becoming that person before it's reality is really the key.
Hmm. How do you become, like, who did you need to become?
I think there was something about confidence, right? So if I would have said, who do I need to become? Who do I need to be in order to be that successful business owner or whatever it is? It probably would have been confident. And it probably still is confidence on like this whole other level, right? And continuing to ask that question with every single goal, who do I need to become? And then what does that person do? Like just envisioning your future self, and what does that person do in their day-to-day life, and living that now, I think is super powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest questions that I had to ask myself when I manifested my current relationship. Um, like, who do I need to become to attract somebody like this? Oh, I need to be more in my feminine. Oh, I need to be more loving. Oh, I need to be a little more of this and a little less of that. And then it's
Yeah.
not about a laundry list of what I want to attract. It's about who do I become?
Yeah.
And it's when you are becoming, everything around you shifts.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then I can almost like turn that into like habits, right? So,
Yeah.
who you're becoming, well, what does that person do like on a day to day basis, right? And I think that there's something there that if you continually do that, you are becoming that person.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I love it.
What are your 3 top tips to living a stellar life?
Oh, a stellar life. Well, I think it will come back to what we talked about with trust, trusting yourself, knowing that you do have the answers, and letting it be uncomfortable, like I was talking about. Like it's going to feel messy, but like keep going. And I think in learning how to move through those uncomfortable emotions, and then I think it's what we were just talking about, that like stepping into your future version of yourself now and not waiting. Don't wait, just even if you have to take just baby steps.
That's beautiful. Wow. And where can people find you? And I know you have a little gift for our listeners.
Yes, so you can find me at KristinSwansonConsulting.com and on Instagram at Kristin_Swanson_ and at KristinSwansonConsulting.com. I've got a free Make It Happen planner for you, so you can download that, get clear on what your soul-led someday when goals are and how you're going to make those happen.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for your generosity.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for this conversation.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners. Remember to trust yourself. Just stay in it when you feel uncomfortable. And step into your future self now and have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time.